Welcome to Blue Collar Sports Talk. Let's talk sports. What a wonderful March 7th morning, huh? Oh, the air is crisp. The basketball is sharp. If you are anywhere tuned into the sports world, and especially basketball, you've probably heard people talking about Phil Jackson and his 40-20 rule. It's a rule to help analyze a team's status, and it's made the news lately. Now, what would be the college equivalent? First, let me back up a little bit. The 40-20 rule is something that Phil Jackson thought he could analyze and measure his team if they reached 40 wins before 20 losses. He felt they were an elite team. Now, I hazard a guess that neither the University of Nebraska men's or women's team would meet that metric. But to say either aren't or not elite, I don't know. At home, they're most definitely elite. Most definitely elite at home. But on the road, both teams have struggled. Both teams have knocked off top talent. The men bested Purdue at home, and the women held Caitlin Clark scoreless in the fourth period to take the win. The men need one more win to help their chances at staying in the top four spots of the standings before the Big Ten tournament, and that win would need to come on the road in Michigan this Sunday to help with their seeding, again ahead of the Big Ten tournament in Minneapolis. Now, the women's tournament has already started, and Our Lady Huskers will battle March 7th against the Purdue Boilermakers in the second round of the Big Ten tournament. I have watched both men's and women's team hustle and battle on defense for entire games and power their way to victory. I have also watched them be listless and lack hustle and toughness and get pushed around till they slump their shoulders in defeat. Am I disappointed in both teams? No, they're very talented. They work very hard, and I want them to do their best. It is tough. I can't imagine how tough it is to be an athlete and also carry a schedule in classes at college. It's tough. I don't want to take anything away from either team. That is tough. If they were to focus only on basketball, that's completely different. But when you're doing both, that is tough. Now, if the teams can match the hustle and energy and desire, like they did when they beat Caitlin Clark and their Hawkeyes, or the men in the Purdue Boilermakers led by their 7-foot-tall center, both teams will go far into the Big Ten tournament. Both are predicted to make it into the big dance, but a couple of wins would definitely help their rhythm and confidence going into March Madness. That was just my quick little take on the Husker men's and women's team, and I am now going to switch to the NBA. The NBA and the teams that have achieved Phil Jackson's rule of 40 wins before 20 losses this year. It's a short list. The Celtics, the Nuggets, the Thunder, and the Timberwolves. Now, in the NBA, very few teams have won an NBA title without achieving this 40 wins before losing 20. It is a very short list, in fact. The 94-95 Houston Rockets, led by Hakeem Olajuwon. During that season, Olajuwon posted double-double series average with 32 points, almost 33, 32.8 points, and 11.5 rebounds and 2 blocks for the entire series. This team was close to the 40-20 rule. They had 35 wins by the time they lost their 20th. So not far off, but they didn't get that 40-20 rule. Next on the list is the 03-04 Pistons. And the Pistons only had 33 wins by the time they lost their 20th. But they picked up a key player in Rasheed Wallace. This helped round out their roster of leaders and defensive specialists. And although they did not get 40 wins before they lost 20, this Pistons team finished the season with a very strong 54 wins. And the Pistons came into the finals as an underdog, but were able to knock off the Lakers led by Shaq and Kobe. And the Pistons only needed 5 games against those Lakers to win the title. The next team on that list that were an exception to the rule were the 05-06 Miami Heat team. They also won a title without achieving the 40-20 rule, and now this time Shaq was with the Heat and teamed with Dwayne Wade. In the finals, the Heat met Dirk Nowitzki and his Dallas Mavericks. The Mavs jumped out to a 2-0 series lead, but the Miami Heat and Dwayne Wade were determined to take home the Larry O'Brien Trophy and won the next 4 games. Wade averaged 34.7 points per game, averaged 7.8 rebounds, and showed how dominant and clutch his game was in only his 3rd season in the NBA. Now, for everyone saying, oh, you missed the team in 2021. Nope. I didn't count any COVID-shortened season or any season shortened by a lockout. If I did, then yes, if you wanted to count a shortened season, the 2021 Bucks, the 19 and the 2020 Lakers, the 1989-1999 Spurs, and the 2011-2012 Heat teams would also be mentioned. Okay, fast forward to current day. 3 of the teams in this year's 40-20 rule are all in the West. So my questions are, does that favor the Nuggets returning to the finals? Or will the Nuggets meet and get beat by the Thunder? Or do the Minnesota Timberwolves have a better chance? Now, in the East, will Doc Rivers get his team to play elite-level defense to rival the Celtics in the East, as the 76ers are 8 games or 8.5 games, maybe 9 games now, behind the Celtics? Or will a team like last year's Lakers in the West run from the tough 10th play-in spot and shock the NBA and be added to the exception list to Phil Jackson's 40-20 rule? A lot of predictions are stating that the Celtics will face the Nuggets in the finals. And if you want a preview of what that might look like, March 7th in Denver, the Celtics are listed as a 1.5-point underdog. The Nuggets and Celtics are both coming off losses. The Nuggets were handed a rare loss at home by the Phoenix Suns, and the Celtics were handed a loss in Cleveland on what some are calling a questionable call and review to end the game. Celtics have a fun road gauntlet ahead of them after the Nuggets. They battle the Suns in Phoenix, travel to the Trailblazers in Portland, and then finish their 5-game roadshow in Utah to battle the Jazz. A look ahead for the Nuggets, and from now to the end of the season, they battle the Timberwolves 3 times, once in Minnesota and twice at home. The end of the season should be a mad dash for many teams battling for top spots in their conference, especially in the West. With the Timberwolves and Thunder tied for first, the Nuggets 1 game back, and the Clippers only 2.5 games back in fourth. The East is a little bit different. The Celtics have an 8-game lead in the East over the Bucks. But the Celtics have also showed in their loss to Cleveland that they might have some issues in closing out games. Sure, that comes after a 50-point win over the Warriors, but NBA is tough. You're playing elite-level talent day in, day out, and you have to be prepared, whether it's on the road or at home. Now, I wanted to mention some key items coming up into the boxing world, so I'm going to completely switch gears out of the NBA into boxing. And if you're a boxing fan, you were either delighted or disappointed in Tyson Fury's effort against Francis Ngannou back in October of last year. Now, Ngannou is slated to box the former two-time heavyweight champ Anthony Joshua. I can almost guarantee that Joshua either tuned into that Fury-Ngannou match or has watched a replay many times to study Ngannou's style. He doesn't want to look like Fury. Fury looked lazy in his approach and did not take that bout serious, as Ngannou landed enough punches to put Fury down on the canvas, and give him a nice cut above his eye. Now, Fury's next fight will be in May against Alexander Usyk, which has been rescheduled once, and my guess it was rescheduled because of his cut and his need for more conditioning. During that Tyson-Fury fight against Ngannou, Fury looked fatter and slower and more out of shape than I have ever seen him. As a Nebraska native and a fan of great boxing matches, I would love to see a Bud Crawford fight in the near future. But as of yet, none are scheduled. Some have speculated that a Crawford and Canelo Alvarez fight could happen, but it is doubtful, as Alvarez fights at 168 and Crawford at 147. Crawford has been quoted as saying he would take that fight in a heartbeat, but also went on to say that the two have never been in talks to fight. In Crawford's last fight, he demolished Errol Spence Jr. And now that Spence is having cataract surgery, their rematch won't happen. So again, I want to just say thanks to everyone for listening. This was just a brief little thing. I haven't recorded in a few weeks. I wanted to get out here and talk a little basketball, talk a little boxing. And if you all listen on YouTube, please hit the like and subscribe button. And if you listen on Spotify, please follow. Thanks for listening. Go watch some sports.